start by asking a big question. Do you think that one day the world might see another industrial revolution? One as every big as the one that occurred in the 19th century? Well, I can see some of you saying, yeah, that could possibly happen sometime. It's conceivable, sure. But what if I told you it's already here? It's already happening. It's called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. If the first industrial revolution was about locomotion and steam, the second revolution was about mass production and the assembly line. The third industrial revolution was the computer age, and now we're at the fourth industrial revolution, which is a collection of unique technologies that combine together. And I want to talk about two very important technologies today. Now, these technologies have been invented separate from one another, but now they're being combined in a way that's dramatically changing the way in which we produce our goods, the way we interact with one another, and even the way in which we simulate our environments. Now, there are two technologies, as I mentioned, that I want to focus on in particular. One is additive manufacturing, or 3D printing, and the other is a set of technologies which I call simulated reality, and they include virtual reality and augmented reality, or VR and AR for short. But I want to actually share something with you at this point. I'm holding in my hand a gift that I received from the Manchester Metropolitan University of Art, Keith Brown. And what you see here is a 15,000-year-old Clovis hunter's projectile. Isn't it magnificent? And this is a Bronze-aged, barbed and tanged arrowhead. And I can tell you, it's magnificent to hold archaeology in your hand like this. And for those of you who have actually held the originals, you're very fortunate. These are replicas. Replicas that an ordinary person like me can hold. Replicas which aren't stored away somewhere behind a glass gathering dust. They're 3D printed and made available to me. Thank you, Keith. It's an example of how we can print today just about anything with these 3D printing technologies. If you're thinking about 3D printing, you also have to consider how 3D printing is making our manufactured goods change. In the future, instead of ordering something online and having it shipped overseas, you might download a plan and have it communicated to you so that you can do your 3D printing at home. This is the future. This will profoundly change us in every bit and shape and form as the other industrial revolutions did. It's exciting. In the case of virtual reality, the ability to actually evoke a 360-degree scene will in effect change the way in which we fabricate our realities, creating simulation experiences that can entertain us, heal us, and tell our human stories. And it's these human stories which I want to focus on. In fact, what really excites me, what I'm passionate about, is making these technologies available to us all. Because we've seen it previously in other industrial revolutions, how there can be winners and losers. Okay. For those of you who are surprised, it might be because you have not been included in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And I want you to be. I want all of us to be. It's important. It's important because there's so much at stake. I want to make sure, in my little way, to make this information available to you and encourage you to get involved. We're already seeing the effects of the Fourth Industrial Revolution and how it's displacing people and changing the nature of work. Okay? It doesn't have to be that way. Now, the reason I focused on these technologies, these are communication technologies. And communication technologies are a wonderful thing because they offer an opportunity for us to step in through that doorway. With communication technology, something is sent and received. And we can both send and receive. We can make things, and we can share things, and be empowered by one another. How can a 3D printer be a communication device? Well, it really is. It really is. Keith Brown and the Metropolitan University of Art sent this to me. It was encoded, sent in a format called G-code so that I could print it. Okay, it might be a little bit of a science fiction, but one day we could even, I don't know, transmit something from another planet. Believe it or not, you can receive the plans for a moon rock sent from the moon or Mars. Download it and decode it and print it out so you can touch and feel it. Humanize it. Communication technology is important because it really can define our civilizations. If you think about the work of Marshall McLuhan, the Canadian, or the historian Harold Innis, who described how technology can define an age, and how we communicate with one another organizes our societies. So in the slide up above, you've got the oral society. And the oral society gave way to the written word and the technology of writing, which brought profound changes, winners and losers, opportunities and challenges. From the written word, we went to the printing press. Again, massive changes to our society. From the printing press to the radio, the telegraph, the television, the computer, and now we're arriving at a new age where we have not one communication technology, but several. AR, VR, additive manufacturing. What I want to talk about today, what I'm passionate about, and what I want to bring you into is feeling a sense that this technology is something that's tangible and real and doesn't make you into a robot human, but actually humanizes you. As my kind introduction made mention, I worked in the video game industry in Canada. How many of you play video games? Oh, come on. All right, thank you. Video games are obviously huge now, isn't it? It's eclipsing Hollywood in terms of the scale. And I had, in my graduate days, I had an opportunity to work in the industry and produce a game with the First Nations community. Our art director was Simon Daniel James, a traditional carver, actually, before he went into digital art, digital design, 3D animation, and we worked with Simon and his Haida community, the West Coast First Nations, in producing a video game for children. I'm going to show you just a short clip of our game. So this children's video game, you can imagine a young native child actually interacting with their grandparents' stories in an immersive way, in a digital language that's cool to them, making their culture cool to them, and humanizing. Yes, so technology that heals. With the Fourth Industrial Revolution, there's also opportunities to enhance our health and our healing. Now, when you think about technology, it's not actually healing you, you're doing the healing, but we've had technologies that aid us since forever. And just on the overhead here is a picture of me in Uganda, Africa, with my colleague and friend Maranga Jones. And he has a VR headset on, which allows him to look into an immersive virtual reality environment. And this was a technology that, this simulation was developed by a company called Firsthand. and the First-Hand team and Howard Rose gave me an opportunity to go to Africa and introduce this technology to the Department of Anesthesia. The Department of Anesthesia is interested in pain. And what this technology allows is for doctors in this environment where there's very few drugs, tragically, to reduce pain, to utilize this simulation, which actually is so effective in reducing the pain experience response that it's showing up in MRIs. And in other regions of the world where drug use is trying to be reduced, it's also extremely effective. And it was thanks to the First-Hand team to be able to do this. The next technology that heals is additive 3D printing, additive manufacturing, and the creation of prosthetic hands. There's a company called Enable, which makes designs for 3D hands downloadable for people anywhere in the world to receive this communication and then print out a hand for someone in need. In this video I'm about to play, there's a local Cypriot named Turgay and a engineer, prosthetic engineer named David Shaw, who came together and developed a hand for Turgay. So David Shaw is in here and he's helping out Turgay with his prosthetic hand. It's right to the elbow actually, so it's a mechanism which is enacted from the elbow. Come on in and take a closer look. So David's from England, but he's come in and using our facilities, and so we're happy to be doing what we're doing with Turgay.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeni kolu muhteşem. Bunu balıkçı teknelerinde kullanmayı düşünüyorum. Bana çok yardımcı olacağına inanıyorum. Bundan sonra daha kolay oltamı tutup balıkları çekmeye çalışacağım. Bu proje güzel bir proje. Küçük çocuklar mutlaka bu projeden faydalanmaya çalışınız. Bu sizin hayatınıza değişiklik verebilecek bir kol.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, isn't it marvelous? Isn't it marvelous? And it's not, I just want to say, it's not the technology itself. It's not the hand and it's not the 3D printer that's wonderful. It's the fact that these individuals, including myself, were able to collaborate on something, being involved in that design process. And I think that being part of that design process is really the sea change here. And I think about, say, a young child who might have lost a limb, being able to be involved in that design process. And I don't know, maybe design a hand based on a favorite sports team or a superhero. And to bring that child some sense of pride and involvement and empowerment in this technology. Has anybody had the experience of inventing something only to realize that it's already been invented, or it becomes obsolete almost immediately? It's happened to me, and this is a picture of me in my invention, which I called the quadroscope. And it was a special project which I designed in my undergraduate days. And basically what it is a contraption which allows for the viewing of a 360-degree panoramic photograph. This photograph that I'm looking at in this picture is of a frozen lake. It's a picture that I took of my cottage lake in wintertime, standing there and doing a 360. And what was so exciting for me to share with my classmates was this experience, which 360-degree virtual reality is so effective at, creating this virtual experience. It was almost like you were there on the frozen lake. This is a snap from the Apito company, who have a cave environment, what's called a cave environment, which is really quite unique and dazzling. It also does away with the VR headsets so that you can really feel a sense of walking into that scene. And I had the opportunity, thankfully, to work with Apito, developing a virtual museum. But as you're watching this, I want you to try to think about just the possibilities, especially when it comes to reimagining historical sites, of which there are so many here in Cyprus. But isn't that amazing? Can you see the possibilities? It's wonderful, yes. And I think the possibilities for the island here that is so enriched and imbued with historical sites is really quite exciting as well. Both the north and the south, the opportunities to work together with all the communities in honoring and reimagining history, making it tangible and something you can step right into. And there's something actually going on already. My friends at the Cyprus Institute of Technology, Dr. Georgios Artopoulos and his colleagues and their partners at the University of Illinois have created an installation recreating the Pathos Gate using VR technology to make it accessible and cool. I'm gonna play the video now. It's amazing. Absolutely, absolutely. And so again, this is the fourth industrial revolution. It's exciting. Get involved. Get your children involved. In Canada, at the public libraries, we have opportunities to use 3D printers. There's a website called Instructables where you can download just about anything and print it. Virtual reality is something that's available and interesting. These are all elements of the fourth industrial revolution, and they're tangible and accessible. If you're an educational institution, get it as part of your curriculum. If you're a government agency, empower your people. There is an industrial revolution going on. Let's not leave anybody behind. Thank you for listening.